Friends, happy Thursday. We're so happy you're here. Hello, my friend Lucas. How are you?
Oh, I am doing great. I'm excited for this episode.
Me too. Look at all the colors, by the way. This is a very colorful little situation, and I'm not upset about it.
We've
I am
really
not
locked in
upset
our
about it.
branding for this show. I love it.
We're having some fun. Well, listen, our whole approach to this, by the way, everyone, welcome to Social Media Makeover. I'm going to say hi to the chat. Our whole concept with this show is like, we're not going to overthink it. We're going to keep this easy and simple for you to make even some minor updates to your Instagram profile. We've talked a little bit about, we'll talk about other social media platforms in this series. But when we came up with this, I was like, I got to call Lucas. He's my smartest social media friend. And here we are, episode 2, ready to rock. Right, Lucas?
I love the idea that really when we're done this series, whenever it's done, it's going to be like a social media Instagram course where people can really just, take an episode, tackle something that they need to work on or give a makeover to in their social media presence. And we're going to have an episode for it. So I'm excited for the journey. I'm excited for today. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So, I think the perfect way to introduce the concept today, which is social media aesthetic, we have a guest who's going to be in the hot seat for this episode. So, let's hear first from him.
Hey, Lucas and Phil. My Instagram account is Survey Down, and with all of the recent changes to the Instagram grid, I need some help with how to plan a consistent aesthetic for my content. I want to create a strong first impression for customers and visitors to my page, so there's only one thing to do.
Okay, how cool is that? Rory is his name, correct? Rory?
Did,
Rory and
did you see
Lucas?
did you see a resemblance there
I
in that
literally
video at
did.
all, Phil?
I literally did. You both have the same eyeballs. Um, how, so this is so fun because I've heard about, you've told me about your brother because he lives in Mexico. Give us like a little bit of a backstory on him before we dive into a makeover.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't remember if the video even explained that, but that is my brother. That's my brother, Rory O'Keefe. He is an underwater cave cartographer. So he lives a significantly more exciting life than I do here in wintry Toronto, Canada, right now. He lives in Mexico, where he gets to spend a lot of time actually going down into cenotes with scuba gear. He's probably mad at me at how I'm butchering this description. And he maps out caves. So he is a cartographer who goes down there, like we saw with his waterproof paper, and he maps out and designs full maps of these caves. He is an Adobe Illustrator user first and foremost,
Hmm.
and I have one of his maps printed. It's not behind me. It's in the other room. I should have got it. But he designs these maps in Illustrator and shares them. And Instagram and social media and YouTube are one of the ways he shares his work. So we're excited to look at his account and give it a nice cohesive aesthetic.
Fantastic. I think he's going to be impressed with what his brother has in store in terms of social media knowledge. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We are hopping into Express to start this makeover. I'm going to go ahead and just look through a few of these photos that he provided. So a little visual reference for the type of work that he's doing. How cool is this? I also feel like, Lucas, I feel people would be like kind of freaked out by this type
Oh,
of
I am
work.
just looking at it. I could
Have you ever
never
gone
see
into one of the
myself.
caves?
I've gone in. I've dry caved one of them, one that he mapped out. He led my parents and I on a little excursion. Um, I don't like to think about it because I pretty much panicked the entire time. I wanted to go back. It was a scary experience. I have never gone scuba diving though, so I didn't even do the majority of it, which I'm sure is him going into these caves and doing that exploring and mapping. So my picture is just me standing in a cave looking scared. Nothing as impressive as what you're seeing here.
It is so cool. Well, I would like everyone to know that I, in fact, have done cave diving. I'm certainly no expert. I've done it once. Friends, what you're looking at on screen is our remixable template. We worked from this on episode 1 of Social Media Makeover. We're returning to it today because it's kind of a part 2, right, Lucas, that we're tackling today as we talk about aesthetic, we'll talk profile, grid planning, and then if we have time at the end, we'll talk story highlights. But it's like a continuation, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, last week we're talking about all the wild changes that Instagram has made to the profile, to the Instagram bio, and to the grid. Last week we looked at how you can actually plan out the text of your grid, the actual words that'll go on there, and we showed how we can use web pages in Adobe Express to actually design your link in bio. Today we're getting visual. We're going to actually take the profile picture, the grid planning, and we're going to use this template to actually plan out your social media grid, which our viewers can get access to entirely themselves. It should be in the description for the video, and,
Yes.
and they can tackle it and use this to plan their own grid too.
Love it. So I'm going to start with this makeover. We're going to start on the profile photo. Something so simple, but it actually is a little more, there's more logistics to this than people might think. I'm going to go custom size. I normally go 1200 by, let's do pixels, 1200, not inches, pixels. I'm going to add a page, nice square canvas. What you saw there a moment ago as I was scrolling through the photos, I wanted you to see a nice variety of the different images that he was able to provide us. I noticed, Lucas, that he doesn't have like a super close-up photo on, like he doesn't have a headshot, which I kind of love. Like you can tell he like loves his work. He's like not trying to get professional photos of him taken. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
don't know, Rory. I don't know if you have any headshots, but let me know if you do. But he only sent me scuba diver in
Yeah.
action photos. I didn't get any nice posed headshots to use.
Which is cool. I kind of like that because I mean, so your headshot. Let me just give a background color here so we can see it. Your profile photo is a nice close-up photo of you. Mine is similar, but I kind of, there's a few ways to go about this. I think this is his current profile photo, right, Lucas?
Yes, I grabbed his current profile.
Yeah, that is not good enough, Rory. That is not good enough. It's like browny and greeny, and I get that that's what it might look under, but you've got so many cooler photos. And when I say cool, let me define what that means. I love the contrast in here. Keep in mind, we're looking at it nice and big here.
Yeah.
But so if we're going to go all in on the environment photo instead of like a close-up headshot, then what we need is a lot of contrast. Because the truth is, the majority of your followers are seeing it that big,
Right.
right?
Very small, a little circle on their phone.
Paired beside a post that you might create. So I'm just hopping over now to his profile. So yes, this is okay as a starting point, right? But I think that we've got some really cool photos here that I think serve a little better for that kind of like
Yeah.
contrast look that we want. So I'm just going to go ahead and crop this, which we can do easily in Express. Let me just adjust our frame size. There we
Something very cool
go.
while Phil's doing that too is you'll notice you can see my cursor on the project. What we did this week, and I'm sure we'll be doing this quite regularly, is we're actually collaboratively working on this Express file. So just through me sharing it to Phil or whoever created it, we're able to in real time. I always love. I want to play tag with these arrows real quick and chase each other.
Yes.
We're working on the same document, which is very cool, and I can see what he's doing.
Yeah, so right now, and what I'll sometimes do is I'll use this crop tool, which you can see I've gone in on quite a very specific, like a very tight shot here of this one that he provided us. Sometimes I'll just crop it as a circle because that's ultimately how it's going to look in Instagram. But you see how already, let me zoom in big so you can see the before. Already, that's like not giving the full picture, the depth of his work. You kind of
Right.
want this to be like a highlight real in a way. We, by the way, don't need to crop it as a circle in Express. Instagram will do that for us. So I
Yes.
typically keep it a square, and then I might go into effects here. And no, that's not good. Let's leave it on none, but maybe I actually increase contrast, friends. So here over on the left-hand side, some of these things you might be opening Photoshop for, and that's great. But also, I find myself doing some of these kind of simple photo edits in Express. Lightroom, Photoshop, I'm still opening those tools when I need them. But I just find that if it's just like a quick little thing, it's actually easier in Express where I might be working on my carousel content, working on whatever it is. Sometimes I'm creating stories in here, or at least the first design, and then I'll put text overlay in Instagram. But don't sleep on these little features over here. Effects, adjustments, animation doesn't make sense for today, but doing those quick little adjustments, I feel again, looks funny because it's going to make it small. But do you see how already that's going to create some visual interest, I
Yes.
think, for a better profile photo. Do you agree, Lucas O'Keefe?
I love it. And I love how, like you said, on Instagram, it's good. You don't actually have to export it as a circle. It'll be done for you, which is great. But I like how you also use the crop to see what it would look like before you actually exported the video, which is nice
Yeah.
to see as well.
For our demo, let me bring this over. So if you're feeling good on profile, I'll put this into place on our little
Yep.
demo Rory feed, and then we can probably start planning his feed.
Yeah, sounds good. So again, something Phil and I really want to highlight, and we can hop over to my screen. I know we're collaborating on the same document, but
We
something that
are.
Phil and I want to highlight too is there are so many different ways you can plan your grid. Just so anybody knows, in the last week, Instagram made a few changes. So if we go ahead in the document, I have um, I have a screenshot here, and I want to show my screen on Adobe Express because I think this is yours right now, Phil. But what I have here is actually, can you hop over?
We see yours. We see
Can I?
yours.
Oh, awesome. Sorry. One thing I want to show is this is really what the new view looks like, where Instagram has gone from squares all the way up to rectangles, and everything is much more stretched out. And that changed a lot for people in the last week, where everyone who perfectly cropped their content into a square. I like to use the old desktop Instagram view to see what it used to look like in case you're
Yeah.
missing it. We'll go to
In
Rory's
case you're
account for
missing
it.
it, open it on desktop. That's your last chance.
Who knows how much longer we have for this
Yeah.
before this is now back to rectangles as well. But we can see what it used to look like and how the cropping was affected by it. So what we designed is we have our grid planner here that allows you to make sure your designs are fitting into the grid as they'll appear on Instagram. It's nice and easy to use. Any images you want, you just go ahead, click on them, and access replace. And then by looking at the photos you have, you can swap them in for these placeholders here. So what I did was I went and loaded in a bunch of Rory's images that he provided that could be social media posts. So I'm going to go ahead and fill them in. And I want to just highlight the easiest grid planning tactic that I use. So I don't know about actually, Phil, you're someone who really cares about the look of their grid, right? You like the
But
aesthetic.
Lucas, I'm getting over it. I
Okay.
was like that for a while, but I'm trying to grow out of it because is it really worth putting a ton of energy into that? I don't know. Like grid planning, let's have a little mini debate about this.
Okay.
I think like for me, grid planning means forcing myself to create different types of content. That's what planning a grid is helpful for me. I can put a text post, I can put a photo, I can put a reel, and it ensures that I post a variety. However, when grid planning becomes paralyzing, that's when it becomes a problem and it's certainly not worth the energy. Would you agree?
Well, I want to know what our viewers think. I want to know, are you team aesthetic grid? It matters. Are you team, I'm never going to look at that thing. It doesn't matter to me. Somewhere in the middle is okay too. But to be honest, I'm with you. I have now shifted. And if we take a look at my Instagram, you can see I got quite the pattern. Well, I try to stick to quite the pattern here of exactly what you described. And that's the strategy I'm going to share here with Rory's content, and the strategy we want to have him working on is to have a nice mix of different content types to make sure you're reaching your audience in different formats, photos, reels, carousel posts that you're designing in Adobe Express. I just do the simple pattern of photo, like actual photo, graphic design post, photo, graphic design, photo, graphic design. And I love this planner we have because that's what I'm doing to really just plot out Rory's content here. He has two main styles of posts. He may have, or let's say three, but he has reels or videos that are actually him in the process of mapping or maybe speaking to the camera and giving a tutorial. These are great for actually educating your audience, getting people who are interested in what you do to hit that follow button. So he has those in which these photos are going to be great. But he also shares his wonderful maps. He also shares articles on his blog, right, that he wants to
Mm.
direct his viewers to. That's where I love having these more, graphic design oriented posts. And just by alternating photo, graphic, photo, graphic, which I'm going to fill out right here with the last three boxes, you
Yeah.
can make sure that you have that nice looking grid and you're also having a nice diverse content strategy that achieves multiple different things. What do you think about that?
I think this is genius. So, by the way, I want to call out before I forget to say our remixable template was not working. My fault, but I just fixed that quickly. So, Franco, thanks for letting us know. But our remixable template should work since we're using the same template from last week. That link should work. That'll bring you to this planner that you can use for yourself. Lucas, I wanted to say, I love that we're not overthinking grid planning. Like, do we all have time to like plan something else in our lives? Probably not, especially something like social media. But grid planning can be as simple as alternating like a checkerboard, right? Different media or even the
Exactly.
covers. And that let planning give you a framework or a reminder for posting different types of content if that relates to you. There are many creators that post only reels, but I would say, right, Lucas, the majority, talking about Instagram again this week, the majority of creators post a variety, right? Like a reel, shorter, longer, carousel, static image.
Yeah, you should be, right? Everyone I say has their like main standout dominant form of content. For Rory, I think that might be these visuals just because they're so stunning and powerful, right? Doesn't matter. These could be just photos because photos aren't dead on Instagram. There's still time for them. These could be just photos and he's telling a story about an excursion he's done or a project he's working on, almost like a running project log. That could be in the caption of a photo or he can actually get the video footage, which I know he does get often as well. If you look at his profile, he could also get the video footage and share it as a reel. Either way, what I like this planner for is he can decide where he's going to be plotting out those different content pillars. So that for him, this could look like, okay, that's going to be, a graphic design oriented post, a
Yeah.
reel, a photo. And just like that, he's gotten three different types of content out there. That's something I try to stick to with my own content. I try to mix in my reels are always just photos, right? Because that's going to be just me. It's the cover photo of me there. And then I mix in a carousel post or a more infographic style post. And I'm just alternating. I like how you use the term checkerboard because that's
Mm.
exactly what I'm aiming for when I'm doing this.
So this is cool. So Rory, like how great that you don't have to worry about becoming a designer to navigate this, right? To show up on social media that might feel stressful. I love that we can have like a little system for you to implement that doesn't feel like it's going to make work for you, but maybe something that feels exciting, new ways to share your world, which for the record is very cool. I couldn't believe, first of all, how quiet it was down there. I don't know. I haven't, I went to one and I don't remember the name of it. Dos Ojos, I think. So in Spanish for two eyes. Um, and it was amazing. And it was so quiet, Lucas, and it was so dark. Like it's the only dive I've ever done where I had to actually bring a flashlight. And
Oh,
that was
really?
so creepy. It was cool though. Really cool. And like normally when you're diving, you expect to see fish. No fish in this cenote. It was just pure um like sights, seeing all the different cave formations. And there was one point that got really narrow. And it was like for anyone that's claustrophobic, this is not the activity for you, let me just say.
Well, I will say my experience with scuba diving is one time he was home and he got me to just try the breathing through a mask, and we filled our basin sink up with water, and I put on a scuba mask to breathe while in sink water, and that's my experience so far with scuba diving.
What is wrong with you? Why haven't you have access to your brother? He does this coolest stuff. You could go down there and learn this, Lucas. I don't like this is I'm making this one of your 2025 tasks.
That's fair. I think I can. Let's touch base in a year. We'll see if I accomplish that.
Like, I
Um,
want Rory to be my brother to learn how to do this. This is like the sweetest hookup to
there
like
you go.
learn how to do it. It's so, so cool.
I'm sure. I hope he's enjoying hearing all this. One thing I've done here that I want to highlight that I love about this planner too is as I was going through this, I want to stick to the checkerboard that you mentioned.
Mhm.
And I noticed that as I was incorporating this style of post here in the bottom left, it's a little bit too dark. And I find it doesn't
Yeah.
actually match out that checkerboard in the way I want. So that's what's also good to just visually see beforehand and decide, hey, I want to actually replace that with something else just because I know I do have some lighter content and he might incorporate his maps that he has designed as you can see here. That's what I'm going to go ahead and pop up there as one of his maps. So we have Cenote 27 steps, don't have that one on there. And I like that checkerboard a little bit more where we can actually map out between the two and look at, okay, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. We also have the checkerboard of, graphic design, photo, or reel, graphic design, reel, graphic design, reel. And for anyone
Simple.
overthinking it, yes, it is simple. It is the easiest pattern to stick to. As I've said, I do it myself. I love to just alternate that way. And it keeps your content fresh as you're designing and as you're planning it. So give this a shot. Go ahead and, as Phil said, we do have the link for the this grid planner here. Go ahead, try it out. It's all in Adobe Express. You can actually plan out the text of your profile, which is something we handled 2 weeks ago in the first episode. And you can actually work on the visual aesthetic of your grid to see how it all looks.
I kind of want to go off script for a second. Can we go back to that empty layout, Lucas? And let's work together on this when we can stay on your screen.
Okay.
Another way that we could use this planner or someone watching could use this planner is we could add like a little text box over, let me just do this right now, over top of this. And we could almost like create 6 different buckets of content. This is another
Yeah.
way. So if
Yeah.
you're less of like a visual person, I am a visual person, but I just want to give an alternative. So I'm gonna just hop in here and maybe we'll just change that color to black for right now with white text. I want to give people another option for grid planning. And Lucas, you're really, really good at this. What if we were to come up with, and we can use Rory as our example of like 6 different types of posts that could bring us into his world. So it could be like, I don't know, or it could be, I don't know if we would want to organize this by Instagram type or by topic. How do you normally approach this when you're like planning content buckets?
While you're doing that too, I'll put in some squares just so we can get some color back there. The way I like
Perfect.
to do it is I prefer to think about the outcome for the content. Do I want to
Yes.
use it to grow my audience? Do I want to use meaning I'm reaching non-followers? It's going to get some good results. It's going to hit the explore page, hopefully. It's going to be getting a lot of shares, a lot of saves. That's my what I call high value content. So that's one outcome. Another
Mhm.
one, maybe I want to just promote my business. I want to promote my products and services. That's very unlikely. Got to shout out how we're working on this collaboratively, by the way, and how seamless this is. You and I doing this.
Also,
I
I've
love
like,
this.
I don't know if it spiked your blood pressure when I said we're going off script, but you're used to me by now. You know that's going to happen by
This is
nature
the
anyway.
fun. This is the best part.
Like, let's just
Um,
change our plans and do something different. But I feel like this is helpful because if someone goes like, you know, yes, I get the visuals and it's easy for me to do it for a client, but the second I have to do it for myself, it's like it can be daunting. Where do you
right.
begin? So we're giving you a point to start.
Yeah. So the other topics you might have too are promotion. Again, you're not necessarily reaching new people, but your existing audience. How are you going to sell to them? Engagement. How are you going to, prompt comments, get people laughing and just hitting that like button. There are so many different things you may want to accomplish. I think people get focused on like the one track outcome of like, I want to get followers or I want
Mhm.
to get sales. And for the most part, if you do too much of one thing, you're going to limit your account. So we can use this to plan out a good comprehensive strategy that Rory can use. I love this idea.
So I just thought of one that we haven't talked about yet, but collaboration.
Yes.
This is so underrated on platforms like Instagram, but this also carries over to like LinkedIn, for example, even tagging someone else in your LinkedIn article or your LinkedIn post. I still think that counts as a collab, even if it's not a formal, double publishing type feature like we have on Instagram. But friends, think about someone else in your world, a peer, a friend, a client. The second you create something with someone and tag them, that goes out to both audiences. Lucas, can you talk a little bit more about this? You know a little bit more, and you do it, I think, more than I do, but you and I have done collab posts. I always feel special because I have basically 10% the number of followers you do. So I get the better deal on those.
Yeah, so a collab post is basically what Phil and I are doing right now. We're collaboratively working on a piece of content, right? I know this is more of an actual strategy side of things. We're planning out a content strategy. But let's say Phil and I were going to work on this post I have loaded in here that we might work on for Rory. Phil, I haven't shared this one with Phil, but I can easily just add him to it by going ahead and typing in his email there, and then he'd be involved in it too. And we might design this post. From there, Instagram has a powerful tool which is called collaborations. And once we're ready to post this, we could share this to both Phil's account and my account, and it gets seen by both of our audiences at the same time. So right away, it sounds like you're hearing some things that should ring some bells. Two audiences. That's what everybody wants, right?
Yeah.
It not only gets it to your own engaged audience, but it's basically like Phil vouching for me and telling his audience, hey, this Lucas guy shares some good content. So good that I decided to collab with him and share the collaborative post with all of you. Go check out him. Likewise, I'm saying to my audience, hey, go check out Phil. Go look at his content. We overlap. If you like my stuff, you'll probably like his stuff too. And it's a great way to really just take control over the algorithm and get traction to your own account.
Genius, especially when you have in the collab have fewer followers, you benefit from it. I
Yeah.
grow every single time, Lucas, that I do a post with you. Not upset about that. Paul had a really good question. Paul said, maybe a dumb question, but Paul, I want to remind you and all of our viewers, replay or live, no dumb questions here. Every question is a good question. Paul says, referring to the first episode, how do you export the Instagram bio template info from Adobe Express or the grid from today to my actual Instagram profile? That's a great question. The remixable template that we've created for you acts as almost like a planner. So you could use these text fields to plan the actual text. What I would recommend if you want to do everything on your computer, obviously we're working from desktop today, you could hop over to Instagram, go into edit mode, and then actually update your bio directly from Instagram. Or since it's only, I don't know, 150 or 200 characters, you could do it manually, just recreating the text that you have. Lucas was very intentional about designing the bio section of this template, right? Lucas, you
Right.
put a limit in place so that people know kind of what that character limit is and you don't go over.
Yeah, exactly. So these lines here are intentionally, the text boxes have been made to this length so that, yes, you can stretch them out and you can expand them, but you do want to mostly stick to the length that I've put here so you know that you're approximately typing in a full sentence that will show up on one single line when you put it into your Instagram bio. So like Phil said, it is a bit of manual work to actually
Yeah.
type it in there. But that's where you're actually planning it out. We mentioned how you don't want to change your Instagram bio too frequently. Some parts, like this name section, you can actually only change, I think, once or twice every 14 days. So plan it out here, do all the heavy lifting, make all the mistakes and typos here. And then when it's ready, have it open on Adobe Express, have your phone in your hand, and just type it exactly as you want it to be so you know it's locked in the way it should be.
One of the things that I love about Adobe Express, and this is why it, for me and with my clients, it acts as like a creative hub. There's so much you can do in here, and there's so many ways to use it. We haven't even talked yet about how to schedule your social media content
Right.
directly from Express. If we have time, I'll demonstrate that at the end. I want to stay to the course here. But friends, like you can use this tool in so many different ways that you can easily adapt. You don't have to use all the features, but find ways in which you're able to use it to complement your workflow. For example, I don't add text on anything that I create in Express for Instagram stories. I'm more likely to add Instagram text
Right.
in Instagram, right? Because otherwise it might feel a little too like staged or
Yeah.
pre-produced. There's kind of an organic feel there. But certainly, for posts that you're creating, reels that you're editing in Express, all of that can be created here, and not only created but also scheduled. I love that you're going ahead and adding your placeholders. I did 3, and now it's your turn to do 3. I'm very
So
impressed.
what I'm doing here too that I want to like encourage people to use this template for is like we said it's a visual planner, it's a text planner, whatever you want that to be. But my favorite social media strategy is called the 411 content planner.
Oh
And
my
basically
gosh, explain it.
what
Explain
that
it,
means
Lucas. What is it? What's the 411?
it's exactly. It's perfect that we have six spots here because the idea is that what I want to do is across my 6 posts, whether that is 3 posts a week for 2 weeks, I want to make sure that 4 of my posts are the highest value, engagement bringing, follower bringing, that kind of stuff content. So we have a high value post, an engagement based conversation post. We have another high value, usually education post, and we have a collab post. That's 4. Then the 1 is 2 promotional posts. One of those is going to be a hard sell. So just straight up, here's what I'm selling. For Rory, that might be something like, if I go to our overall grid, that might be something like, hey, just launched, here's my new map. You can purchase a print of it at my website. Click the link in my bio, right?
I'm
It's a
going to
hard
actually
sell.
paste these. Sorry to
Oh,
interrupt
very
you.
nice. Look at that.
So this is me using my friend for his brain. That's you, Lucas. I think let's actually like, since you're giving examples, let's give an example for each one, and I can chime in here as well. You don't have to do all the work, but
No,
like
I love that.
we want to get granular here because people like if we can give an example using Rory, then friends, you can be thinking about your own brand and go, oh my gosh, I could do that as like a high value post.
Exactly. So let's say for engagement then, right? I know I gave the example of a promotion, a hard sell is, hey, you can get prints of my latest map. Here's where to buy it, right? Hard sell. Let's
Yeah.
say for engagement though, because you never want to sell back to back to back. I always say split up the sales posts, right? Let's say before that, you want to do an engagement post. This is what I would call a very scary image of a descent underwater going off for a mapping excursion.
I think
So
it's cool. I
maybe,
don't think it's scary at all. I think
well,
it's rad.
well, us talking about it is proof that it's already a good topic for an engagement style post because he might post if this is a video clip or just, a still frame image, he might post this and then tell a story of his descent in or this whatever is being shown here and maybe talk about how it's scary. Talk about how he's fearless and this doesn't phase him at all. And then the whole point of the post is to get his audience, oops, sorry, is to get his audience sharing their story, seeing if they can
Yes.
relate, right? Maybe it is a video and it's a frightening video. Well, then people will share it to someone else and be like, hey Phil, you know how you keep telling me to go scuba diving? Well, I saw this video and fat chance I'm never going now after this, right? So that's a good example of an engagement post. We might follow it up then with a, hey, you don't want to go do the underwater excursion or the mapping yourself? Well, I can give you a print of the map. Here's where you can buy it. Maybe a high value post is then shifting to a photo here or a reel, and he's giving tips for, 3 things to know before your first cave cartography excursion, right? It could be in the caption and it's just this photo, or it could actually be on screen and we're talking about an actual reel, okay? High value, people are going to follow him and learn more because of that. Then maybe we're going to a collab. And let's say he's plotted it out here like we have, and he's saying, well, I had a picture of my map here, but I don't really see how I can collab with another account on that. Well, that's where you might then look at your content that again, we've saved here in the brand folder for Survey Down. That's his brand. Look at your content bank. I like to save them as assets. You can save your tons of different files here. And think, okay, what's one that I could post as a collab? And I know I'm making stuff up here, but let's say this is an article here that he wrote with someone else,
Hmm.
right? He went on a cartography excursion with someone else, and he's going to get their input. They're both reflected in the article being shown here. So that's going to be a collab to both of their accounts on Instagram. And guess what? It fits our grid planner too because it's got the graphic design background.
It's perfect. And I'm glad you brought that up since today we're talking about aesthetic. I think my biggest takeaway for our viewer today is like, don't overthink the term aesthetic. Aesthetic today doesn't mean what it meant even a few years ago. Aesthetic doesn't mean picture perfect. Friends, it means a system by which you can follow to create content, to almost incentivize yourself to continue creating as consistently as you're capable of creating. It's supposed to empower you. It's supposed to give you guidance, not paralyze you. Super, super, super important. That might be the most important takeaway on this like term aesthetic that we're kind of addressing today.
Yeah, because I know so many times, and I'll speak to myself. I've done this where, I have a more important post that I need to get out, but this part of my brain will say, yeah, but it's gonna mess up your grid. You're gonna have two photos back to back. That's not what your
That
checkerboard
is
want.
that is so relatable. That is so me. You just described me to a T. Guilty as charged.
It's okay. Look, you can see I break the pattern a little bit here. That's a collab I did, right? I do split it up from time to time, and that's okay, is what I will say.
When you break the grid, does anything dramatic happen in your life? The world continues to turn?
It's amazing because for everything I thought would happen, it's all okay. It all stays fine. So try
Oh
it
my
and you'll find
gosh.
that out for yourself.
Friends, I want to remind you, those of you watching live, if you have any questions for us, for Lucas, this is his world. So let us know. I'm watching the questions closely. One idea I had for a collab this had never occurred to me until today's conversation. I could be doing a collab with a client, a brand that I've recently, launched, or a
Yes,
website
yeah.
I've launched with my client, and that goes out to their audience and it goes out to my audience. And there's just like this level of integrity. It's kind of cool to be like this, two humans linked in this way. For Rory, it could be someone that he brings on an excursion. Like, maybe he's got a content creator or someone who posts on Instagram. That would be a really cool way to cross promote or cross kind of tell that story. Especially something like this that's so visual rich. That's why I get so excited about getting to work with like example brands like this because there's just like such cool visuals to start from.
Yeah, and to that point too of like taking people with him going on dives together, that could be our next promotion post too, because with the 411 strategy, four posts are like value, engagement, things like that. One of them is a hard sell, which I talked about. The other one, 411, is a soft sell. So a great way to actually pitch your products and services, but like not make that the whole identity of your account is just being salesy, is to do a soft sell. And we have perfectly here on the planner, he has, a reel or a photo-based post, which normally might be hard to sell with, right? As opposed to showing his prints, showing his maps. But this could be like footage of him taking someone on a cartography experience, teaching them about how to dive or how to map, how to make the map while diving. And then in the caption or at the end of the video, he's giving them a call to action. Click the link in my bio to, book your next excursion. Things like that. It's not the main central focus. The main central focus is look at this awesome footage you have of you exploring and creating this map. So I think that leads to a very wholesome strategy that covers all these different things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A question actually from Rory. This is
Oh,
great. We always invite, by the way, friends, we always invite our guests that are in the hot seat to actually join us in the chat. So thank you, Rory, for actually hanging out with us today. So you've got a great question. that you're calling a dumb question. Rory, there's no dumb questions at Social Media Makeover. You said the article that Lucas used as a collab example was published in a Dive magazine. How would I actually make that a collab post? Do you
Yeah,
want to
that's
take
an
that one, Lucas?
so I wish I could show this from Instagram desktop because you can't. But the great thing is when you go to upload an Instagram post, normally you can tag someone in the post, right? You can tag yourself even. But let's say you're tagging your brother. Let's say I'm tagging Rory in a family photo on my personal account. I would click tag people and I would select him and type in his account. Well, if you are from an account that has access to the collaboration feature, which nearly all do now, when you go to the same tagging options to upload a post, you go to tag people, there will be an option that says invite collaborators. And just like that, you tap that button, type in their account, it'll pop up because it's registered to who you follow, select them, and then it'll send them an invitation to accept the collab when you hit post. So once you hit post, they'll get a DM from Instagram saying, Lucas has invited you to collab with him on this post. You can review it if you don't know who Lucas is, because people do. I don't know about you, Phil, but I get like collabs from strangers. So it's
I'm not
good
that famous. No one tags me at random, but I
it's
can
good we have
understand
the
why they
option
would
to
tag
review.
you.
Exactly. So you can accept it or reject it basically, and as soon as you accept it, it shows up on both of your feeds. Some small tips that I've picked up is typically the larger account or the account with the more engaged audience should be the one to post the post, and the smaller account should accept the collab. It just gives a little bit more of a boost to the first person's audience, who is the bigger audience. And I always try to have someone ready to accept it right away. I find, recency is everything. The longer someone leaves that collab invitation unaccepted, I find the worse the post does. So make sure that person is ready, collaborate on a time to collab when you're posting.
Fantastic. Great question, Rory. So continue to ask them. Let's actually take this question from Amber. I am a graphic designer, student graphic designer. Should I make separate socials for my design work or integrate them into my personal Instagram? Do you have any strong opinions on that,
I
Lucas?
always love this question,
Me
and
too.
I find it is important to make your own account for your business, for your graphic design. We often have personal accounts that have been around for a long time. It's not necessarily people who followed us probably followed us because they were our friends and family, not necessarily people who wanted to know about our graphic design, which means they might not engage with your graphic design content. They might not even recognize it's you when you post graphic design content. So I like to create a brand new account for that purpose, make it nice and niche, connect with other graphic designers, use
Yeah.
hashtags and keywords that have to do with graphic design. So that's who you get shown to, would be my suggestion.
It's really good advice. Amber, it can feel overwhelming to be like starting something from scratch, but I'm telling you, that kind of laser focus from the beginning is going to help you grow in the first place. On social media, when you try to be everything to everyone, you effectively appeal to no one.
Yep.
And so, really, kind of with some humility, starting from scratch, you're going to find that that account is going to grow faster by having that kind of focus and specificity. I see you, Lucas, doing some fancy
Yeah.
footwork here with some grids.
So what
And tell us what you're doing.
what I'm doing here is I realized as we were going through this, we have one more post for our strategy that we're mapping out, and that is the high
Yep.
value piece of content, right? We haven't done that yet. So let's actually show what a high value piece of content might look like. Conveniently on our grid, if we're sticking to our checkerboard pattern, which goes, graphic design post, photo, graphic design post, photo, we have a graphic design oriented post. So what I did is I took one of Rory's designs and I've put it into an Adobe Express project. Something I should mention that we're not showing off today, but if we have Rory back on, we'll have to do this, is Rory designs all his maps, all his content in Adobe Illustrator. Something very cool.
Love to hear it. Love to
Oh,
hear it.
connectivity is
Snaps for
everything on
Rory.
Express.
Yes.
Yes, he is phenomenal at what he does. This is all Illustrator. He sent it to me, and it is so easy to make a linked asset from an Illustrator or Photoshop file so that
Yep.
basically Rory can work on something in Photoshop or Illustrator, and then I can make sure it comes on over to Express in the way Rory wants it to, which is very nice. I can also import, if he gave me just an Illustrator file and was like, hey, make a social media graphic out of this, I could take that into Express and work with it as well. So very cool if you're dealing with people who, maybe you're a designer who uses Illustrator and Photoshop as your main tools, and the person you're working with is stronger with Express. You have that connectivity that can work. So I'm taking that post he did, and I'm not using the integration right now, but I'm making a high value post that he can share to really get his audience hitting that follow button or investigating his longer form YouTube videos and things like that.
Really good example. I've actually got one that I could probably show if we want to
Yeah, sure. Let's
hop
take a look.
over. I wasn't planning on this, but I like to go off script. So you should be able to see my screen now. This is just an asset that I pulled quickly from Adobe stock. We're in Photoshop. Let's generatively fill a cloud here. Let's do this live. We're going to give it there a second to add in a cloud. It's going to look at the existing image. Oh, that's kind of fun.
Oh, I like
It's
that.
kind of fun.
We got a
I
few
haven't played
options.
with any.
Yeah.
We got some options. I haven't played with any like additional style controls yet. But now if I hop over to Express where I have this asset, I can just click update live and there you see it.
I see
So
right
it's
there.
instant. It's instant, near instant when you hop between tools like Photoshop, Illustrator, etc. While we're on my screen, Lucas, I hadn't planned on this, but there's another planning feature in Express that I think is so handy when you're thinking about aesthetic, you're thinking about the planning of your posts. It's this one right over here. When you select add-ons, far left bottom, I gotta say, friends, this is like there's so much cool stuff in here.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's changing on a daily basis. So almost like make a point of coming over here and checking out the add-ons in Express. Some of these I use every single day when I'm creating an Express for Lucas. You primarily create on Instagram. I primarily create on YouTube. I do
Right.
all my graphics in Express. But check this out. This I know we mocked up for his profile photo, but imagine this was actually going to
Wow.
be, yeah, imagine this was actually going to be a feed post. You can see and preview how that looks on social media. I know it seems bizarre, but it actually really helps to see your post, particularly if there's more design elements, it's a carousel. To see it in the environment, if you look over here on the far right side, see it in the environment of the social media platform itself really helps. So yeah, thank you for hiding us there. We were covering it up. There you go. Far right, you can see it. Again, this is for Instagram, but if I click over to social previewer, we've got YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook Reels, etc. I love this little feature that's like so easy to use directly in Express. So wanted to call that one out. Amber
That
says,
is
thank you.
awesome.
You're welcome, Amber.
Yeah, I think a big highlight here is like if you haven't, go play around with some of the add-ons because they are pretty phenomenal in how they really just take Express to that next level and give you that customization, for things that are going to be very useful to you. Like you said, Phil, you use things like YouTube and whatnot. Maybe you want to, custom tailor Express to help you with that in particular.
Look
What
at
do you think?
this.
What do you think of my high value post here that
I
we
think it's
got?
amazing. And you did it in literally a few seconds. I'm so impressed. This just illustrates the magic that is Adobe Express. Don't overthink it. Get it done. Friends, you got 15 minutes between client
We do.
calls or whatever you're doing in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
day. Use that time efficiently.
So that's an easy way. You can just plop it in there if you want. We can go ahead and just, drag it there, plop it in.
Leave
If
it
I
there.
have
I
it,
like it.
if I have it as a brand, I can actually put it in there. Oh,
Mhm.
sorry. Moving our whole grid here. And
That's
then
okay.
that's why I like to keep everything as an asset in the brand. And let's
Yeah.
say this is a square, I can see what Instagram's going to do to it because of the way we've structured it to be rectangles. My understanding is that if you are, sorry, if you are using the new Instagram grid, which everyone has for the most part. I think if you had just a 1080 by 1080 square, like I'm showing here for the most part, it'll just kind of add top and bottom sidebars to it on Instagram. It seems to be what they're doing, but I heard they're coming out with an option to reorganize your grid now because there's been so much, people have been quite upset about the changes to the grid. So I think there are options to coming soon for Instagram to reorganize your grid, which will be similar to what we've done here, which is nice.
We're going to wrap talking about story highlights, but I want to just take a beat and review at a high level some of the points that we've covered. Obviously, if you're joining us late on this stream, well, you know the drill. Go back and watch from the beginning because there's some good stuff here when we started, but we started with a profile photo. So you'll see we created a new profile photo for Rory based on the existing photos he had. Initially, I was looking for zooming in. Initially, I was looking for a headshot, but then I changed my mind because we have such cool photos of him in the element. Something like this with like a lot of contrast, dark and light is going to grab attention when it's, teeny meeny, like really small. Um, and so that's a great profile photo, I think, using the images that we've got. Then we talked about grid planning. Would you call it the 411? The
The
ways of making sure you're
411,
not too promotional.
yeah, it's how to balance high value content. For every 6 posts, four should be high value. One should be a hard sell, straight up selling, promoting. One of them should be a soft sell. Give value, tell a story, but then add on a little bit of promo to the end.
Genius. You saw how we use a variety of planning tools. Lucas, let's talk about story highlights. I can flip over just quickly and show what we've got for Rory's existing or actual Instagram account. He's got 2 story highlights saved, one called Mapping Dive, one called Printing with an exclamation mark. I would love your insights on like what we could do to get him set up with story highlights and where story highlights are going. I know that's a big question for just a few minutes, but give us what you got.
Yeah, so the main thing we know with story highlights is that they're likely going to change. They won't be these bubbles that we see as much anymore here. So that's
Right.
likely going to be gone. Instead, what we'll be seeing is something above your grid. So I like how you gave us a little bit of space there.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, I like to just work with the circles to visually see what it might look like. Just because even if story highlights are removed from where they currently are, it'll still likely be the top row of your grid, kind of like pinned posts people currently have. It's gonna live somewhere there because people like story highlights. It's something that when you come to the profile, you want to see them and kind of get a sneak peek at what the account's about. So I like that you easily just slid down our grid here and you're adding in some circles that we can use for story highlights.
I'm like typing as fast as I humanly can, knowing that we literally have like 3 minutes left. But I want to get people started on just a way to like think about this. Your story highlights really are designed for someone trying to get more information about you. They might be deciding whether or not they're going to follow you. They might be deciding maybe you're someone that they've met in the past. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like when someone lands on your profile, you're like, I want to learn more about this person. I want to see what they do. I want to see what they're saving. Think
I always
about it
like
as valuable real estate, right?
I always like, who are you? So start here is great for that, right? Who are you?
Yep.
What do you do? Tell me about you. Why should I follow you? And how can I work with you? Or what are you trying to promote? In that
Mhm.
order, ideally. Start here, why and how or what, right? What do you have on offer? And I think that's a great way to do it. I know some people have a lot of extensive story highlights. You used to tell some very fun stories in your story highlights, some good travel stories, which I like too. So again, key point here, don't overthink it. If you put it in there, someone will probably like it, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. And it's a good way to think about these. I think, yeah, of course, people who are following you might check this out if they're on your profile, but chances are the majority of traffic to your story highlights are people that are not yet following you. They're people that have discovered you through this engagement reel, right? That first example we gave of a post is like the perfect kind of content to create to bring someone in. The story highlights are important. even if they change form in the next few weeks and months, and we never know what Instagram's going to do, and then they launch a batch of features to just a handful of people and make everyone frustrated. We don't
Oh yeah.
know what is going to happen to them exactly, but we do know that it will exist in some way, shape, or form. Super valuable real estate. If you want to design the highlight covers, I would do exactly like what we did for the Instagram profile image. I would add a page here, same size, nice and square, pop in an image. So I'll pop one in here from, let's say, let me find something here from our Rory images. Let's go. Something like that is really
Ooh, that one's
cool.
nice.
Yeah, that would crop nicely as a circle. Again, you would download the image as a square and then Instagram will crop it. You just want to save it to your phone, go to edit, highlight, and it'll give you a little option at the bottom to upload from camera roll. And that, my friends, is how you do it. We covered a lot of ground today, did we not?
We we did. I'm excited for our next episode. So, if you want to get a social media makeover, like we're saying, send us a DM because we're
Please.
looking for accounts to focus on. No, you don't have to have as cool a life as Rory. That's okay. I know you set the bar high. But thank you, Rory, for letting us give you a social media makeover.
A huge thank you to Rory, and also not just for letting us feature you today, but also hanging out in the chat. We've had some really good questions come in today, and we'll just, think of this series as a continuation, like a little course that we're building. So be sure to stay tuned to everything that we have coming up, and we're talking about Instagram specifically, but we'll tackle a variety of social media platforms, and we will see you back in 2 weeks' time for a new episode. We will see you then. Thanks for hanging out with us,
Thank
guys.
you.
See you soon.